With something like 5 million podcasts, finding a really good one can take a ton of time. So let me recommend one. It's called Something You Should Know. I'm the host, Mike Carruthers, and in each episode, we discuss topics that can be really helpful, like how to read people better, the psychology of crowds, or fun things like the story of Legos, or why you probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for horses. Something You Should Know is the name of it, wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, a founder of the Go Kid Go network. At Go Kid Go, putting kids first is at the heart of every show that we produce. That's why we're so excited to introduce a brand new show to our network called The Search for the Silver Lining, a fantasy adventure series about a spirited young girl named Isla who time travels to the mythical land of Camelot. Look for The Search for the Silver Lining on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Let's hang out. Let's hang out. And let's talk about what lesbians about. Let's hang out. And let's listen to two lesbians shout. Let's hang out. Let's hang out.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Hang Out, a podcast with a singular impression: things are moving too fast. From the West Coast, I'm Lee Holmes Foster.
And from the East Coast, I'm Ellie Brigida. If you're a longtime listener, thank you as always for joining us. And if you're new to the podcast, welcome. We're excited to have you here. And here's what's been going on lately.
This week in the Lesdom.
This week in the Lesdom is a place for us to touch base with you guys every episode about things that are going on either with the podcast or with our lives or just with the greater lesbian world.
Yes. And the most exciting thing that is happening is that we have booked a New York live show.
New York!
We're so excited. For those of you who didn't hear in our last episode, it is Monday, February 18th at the Bell House. We're going to do a live Should Have Been Gay with a drinking game, and we're going to have a wonderful time.
We have some guests lined up. We cannot wait. We are so pumped. It's our first live show, so if you want to come pop our first live show cherry with us, can we say that?
Yes, please.
Yes, okay. Come do that. It's going to be a
Yes.
blast. We can't wait to see you guys.
And you can get your tickets now. So
Yes. Buy them early.
get your tickets. We're so excited to see you guys there. Yeah.
Also, it is Thanksgiving coming up real soon, so if you have any fun things going on, fun trips, I'm going to be back on the East Coast. Ellie and I will be in the same place for a little bit. That's always exciting for us.
So exciting.
If you have any fun traditions that you do, send them to us. We want to hear them.
Yeah.
We love hearing stuff like that.
My new fun tradition is that my parents are divorced. That's fine, whatever. But so I go with my. I know my fun tradition is that my family's broken. No, it's fine. But I go with my dad's side of the family, and we go on a trip to Florida for Thanksgiving. So like, I really don't mind that I go to Florida and go on a cruise, and I'm gonna be in the sunshine for Thanksgiving. It's gonna be great.
Nice.
Yeah. Also, you may or may not know, all of the audio production and editing for this podcast is done by me. So I do some podcast editing for some other podcasts, but I just want to let everyone know, if you have a podcast or if you're thinking of starting a podcast, I am offering up my podcast editing services. You can find that at podcast@clearharmonies.com.
Check it out. Get Ellie on your shit.
Yes. Great.
Do it. Also, next week coming up is our next Les Essentials viewing party for a movie some of you might have heard of. It's called Professor Marston and the Wonder Women.
Oh, yeah.
It is amazing. And we cannot wait to watch it with our patrons. So if you are interested in joining us, you can become an Ellen DeGeneres patron on our Patreon page at bit.ly/lespatreon, and we are so pumped.
Heck yes. In the Les universe, Rafiki, which we've talked about before on the podcast, it's a Kenyan lesbian film. It was only allowed in theaters for 1 week in Kenya. And in the 1 week that it was there, it was the top performing film at the box office the entire week. And in just 1 week, this is freaking insane, the second highest grossing Kenyan film of all time.
That's crazy.
Yes. But I'm not surprised. Because I posted this on Facebook, but lesbians freaking show up. Like, You're like, oh, you're gonna ban this film. We're gonna make it the most successful film you've ever seen. Oh, you didn't want to play this year? Like, here we all are coming out of the woodwork. Who knew there were that many lesbians in Kenya?
Just lesbians, like, coming out of bushes.
Yeah.
And, well, that became a really unintentional pun. Lesbians everywhere is what I meant.
Lesbians everywhere.
Just lesbians everywhere.
But,
So that's amazing. I can't wait to see it. If you know any details about when it's going to be available, when we can go, I want to see it.
I want to see it. I think for
movie.
sure we have to make it a Les Essentials. Like,
yes,
so
absolutely.
we will definitely watch it and we will report back. But seems like it's a pretty great film.
100%. Our last thing is this really cool, weird story about a lesbian couple who had a baby and have now become the first couple ever in the history of the world. It is this groundbreaking thing where they're the first women who have both carried the same baby, which sounds impossible. It's not impossible. Essentially what they did is they basically did in vitro, but instead of incubating the eggs in like an incubator, they actually incubated the eggs, like the fertilized eggs, in one of the women, and then took out those after they had been incubated and then implanted them in the other woman to carry and actually like gestate. So they didn't like half grow a baby and then move it to the other woman, which I think is what a lot of people probably like read the headline and were like, well,
what?
So it is not that. That would be, I do think, impossible. But it is still very cool. And what a neat story and idea and thing that is possible that you can do. So,
I love it.
And also gabies, you know me.
I know.
I love me a gaby. So congrats to those two. And what a neat thing that's an option moving forward if people want to do that. So
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
that's what's happening this week. Back to you, Ellie and Lee.
Thanks, Ellie and Lee. And welcome, everyone, to episode 207, When You Haul in Love. When you haul in love.
Exactly.
I got you.
Exactly. Right. This week, we are going to be exploring the most classic lesbian myth, I think, of U-hauling. I feel like everyone knows the two biggest lesbian stereotypes. What does every, lesbian relationship need to be happy? A U-haul and a turkey baster. We're starting with the U-haul.
Yep. Yeah, I swear to God, like, every straight person I know, like, that's, like, the only joke they make for me. Like, they're like,
Yes.
oh, well, your U-Haul key, Ellie, you left it here. And I'm like, stupid, but also sort of true. It's
You're
fine.
like, stupid, give me that key. You
I'm like, I need that
bastards."
key. I'm going on a date tomorrow. Oh, God.
I'm sorry. I'm having a moment where, like, I think we should add. You know how parades we always have like dykes on bikes.
Yes.
Can we just add like a U-Haul contingent of like a bunch of lesbians just like tooling around in U-Hauls
Yes.
at the parade?
Honestly, yes.
Yes.
Well, I love too when we posted that article, which we're going to talk about later, that said that lesbians don't move in more quickly. And
Right.
actually, two of my friends sent in a picture of them in front of a budget. So they were like, so what is it called if you don't actually have a U-Haul? Like you had to get like a cheaper rental.
Nice.
Budgeting? What is budgeting? But what is U-hauling, for those of you who don't know, which is just moving in together in a very short amount of time.
Yes. So
Right.
the stereotype is that lesbians, you essentially go on a date and end that date by moving in together, I think.
Yep.
Right?
Or just, we move quickly.
Yes.
Yes. According to a new study, the average time that most couples move in is 18 months after dating. So, if you moved in any time before 18 months, you U-hauled. Which, okay, maybe this is the lesbian in me, but I'm like, that's a long time.
You're
I'm
like, double
wait.
digit months? That's
Yeah.
totally legitimate.
I'm like,
Yeah.
shit. But what if it's like a year? I think is reasonable.
Well, and so I think this is the first question, right? Is this a myth? Is this real? Do lesbians do this? Is it a stereotype that's just, based on something?
I mean, anecdotally, I don't think it's a myth. Like, I see, okay, you gave me statistics, but like, I don't know. Even if you don't technically live together. I feel like lesbians get into a relationship and like whoosh, like you are together and you are together like most days and you get close real fast.
Anecdotally, we may or may not know people, queer women, who have moved in before they had been together
like,
for 18 months.
A lot. Like most of them.
Anecdotally, we may or may not believe this study is the point.
Yes. So I think moving forward, study aside, we're just going to go and say, lesbians U-Haul, why do we U-Haul?
Or is that it? We're done? We're like scrapping that section already?
No.
We're like,
okay.
Is it a myth? No. Let's move on.
Okay, well.
This in-depth journalistic investigation brought to you by Ellie and Lee.
Okay, maybe it is a myth, but I'm saying here's the reason that the study thinks that it's a myth, okay? Is because it only takes into account actually moving in. Okay?
Yeah, not like the... What can we even call like that half moving in where it's like you technically still have another place that you
live in,
quote unquote.
Yes.
But you don't.
You know what I mean? So it's like...
I know. Yeah.
I feel like there's definitely that in between stage where you have a toothbrush there, half of your clothes are there. Like you haven't like slept in your bed for the past 10 days. Right. And I'm not speaking from experience at all.
I'm going to bring up, just because we just did How I Met Your Mother last week, so I'm going to bring up, this is like when you discover that Lily has an apartment, like her own apartment.
Yes.
Right? Like,
yes.
Because obviously she doesn't have her own apartment.
Yes.
She lives
exactly
in the apartment with Ted and Marshall, but suddenly you discover, wait, she has had an apartment this whole time. That, yes, we need like a name for that. Like, yeah. Where you're like pseudo living together, but like officially you have a key to another place, you know?
Yeah.
So I think the question of is it a myth, I think is not just a question of do lesbians move in together quickly, which, I mean, I'm with you. Absolutely. I think we do. I think, you know, that's a thing that happens. I think the other flip side of that, though, is do straight people not do that? Yes.
Okay. So I think you're right on this, is that everyone moves in quickly.
Right?
Right?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like if I had to say, I would say maybe queer women that I know do move in a little faster.
Maybe in the technical sense, but I think, this is just me speaking anecdotally, straight people live in the middle ground for longer because they're trying to push it off.
Yes, that I absolutely would agree.
But I think they still are living in the, all your shit is at one place. And you pretty much live together, but it's not technically, we don't technically live together. So we're still casual, you know, we're still keeping it chill. No, you're not.
Yeah.
No, you're not. No. So real. So real. All right. So I think that is more of a thing, that it's not necessarily just lesbians, but people do move quickly. When you're in love, you move quickly.
That's true. Yes. Everyone's been there, right? You're in a relationship. Everything's going so good. You just want to be around them all the time. You want to cuddle. You want to walk around the apartment, like, without having to put clothes on.
Exactly.
You want to wake up together. And so you move in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like totally in that space right now, so it's fine. Yeah. It's fine. Oh. Well, and the thing too is, I think now in this financial climate, not to like bring everything down to like a more whatever, but number one, more people live at home. So it's like I'm gonna go stay at my girlfriend's because I prefer to stay there than at home, right? Yeah. And then number two is like, if it makes sense for you to live together, it is so much cheaper. Like, okay, in Boston, first of all, rent is ridiculous. You live in the San Francisco area. You understand as well.
Oh, yes.
Like, to live in a 1-bedroom apartment, and this is like a cheap 1-bedroom in like far away from the city, is $1,600 a month. Okay?
Sorry, the Bay Area in me is just laughing right
because
now.
that's
still.
actually cheap for I know. But I'm
I
saying
think $1,600 is what someone in Oakland was renting the treehouse in their backyard for.
Oh my
every month,
God.
So like, it's fine.
either way, $1,600 a month is a lot of money to shell out for rent.
Yeah.
So split that 2 ways. You're in a little 1-bedroom, nice little place for $800 a month. Easy. When I lived in New York, so I moved to New York with my ex-girlfriend. We lived with 2 roommates. I spent $400 a month in rent. Like, ridiculous. Because we shared a bedroom in a 3-bedroom. So it was like we had a 3-bedroom in the middle of nowhere, Brooklyn, and I only had to pay $400 a month.
I'm pretty sure. So, I mean, granted, I do not actually live in the city. I live in the East Bay. I have a lot of friends who live in the city. And my understanding is if you live in San Francisco, like anywhere kind of like downtown or the Mission, like if you can find a 1-bedroom for under $3,000 a month, that's probably real good.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is insane. Insane.
So, I mean, I think I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. 2 apartments in this economy?
yes, right?
Come on.
No
That's just-
freaking way.
Why would you do that? It's impossible. I mean, I do think it's hard to discount, especially, we talk a lot about this generation, millennial generation, what's after us, Gen Z?
I
Is
don't
that
even
right?
know, yeah.
I think Gen Z, let's just say if you are like out of college and like under 35, maybe,
Yep.
it is not cheap to live any of the places that we are finding jobs.
Yep.
Most of us are coming out saddled in student loans.
Yep.
So you're hitting the ground running with nothing but debt. So you have payments already. So you have to make rent payments. You have to make loan payments.
Car
You're
payments.
frequently starting at jobs that are underpaying us
Yep.
because everything has crazy requirements where you just have to have more degrees, more experience. So, yeah, I mean, I think that it's hard to discount. But I think those lead to 2 different things. I'm going to say the financial side of things, I would expect leads to more U-hauling, right?
Yes.
Financially, it makes more sense. Scrap everything, get 1 apartment, split that rent, and, just pull that trigger, do that.
Yep.
I'm gonna say the lovey cuddly, we just want to see each other all the time / you're doing it a lot in the beginning and you want to be conveniently close by. That's gonna lead to that sort of like pseudo U-hauling, like half U-hauling where you still have the other.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and then I do feel like the thing...
Wait.
What?
While we try to think of a name for it, can I call it screw hauling?
Screw hauling.
Like
Honestly,
not actually
we don't
living together,
have...
but you're like basically moved in so that you can have sex a lot.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think we have to come up with another name because that's it, Lee.
That's
Screw
it.
hauling. That's
You're welcome.
perfect.
You're welcome, world.
That's perfect. Well, and then I think too, because you're like, you have these 2 boring parts of you where you're like, I'm so in love and like all I want to do is like be with you, and then like the other part of your brain's like, maybe you should slow down, like, maybe it's like smart and
Right.
reasonable to slow things
Escape
down.
plan.
But then you're like, oh, but it's also smart and reasonable to split finances.
Yeah.
Oh, so I'm being crazy, but I can reconcile it because it's smart. Here,
Right.
take this convenient smart excuse when really it's just because I want to live with the person that I'm in love with.
Right. You're like,
But,
really,
like-
we just want to bone a lot.
Yeah, but like,
Yeah.
here you go on a platter, so I don't seem crazy. It's money. It makes sense. That I think is also sort of a little loophole that we can be
What
like,
we're saying is we see through you lesbians. You can't fool us.
you can't fool us. But it is a nice, convenient little extra.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I think
100%.
more than likely it is just because we as lesbians, we just become very intimate very quickly.
Yes. So let's transition in. So I think what we've covered is what are reasons that people might U-haul or screw haul. And I think those reasons apply to...
You said it so seriously.
write your thesis on screw hauling. I will give you, it is free, royalty free. I am not trademarking it. Screw haul. What are reasons that people might U-Haul and or screw haul? And I think those reasons apply straight or gay.
Yes.
Right? But now I think the bigger question is, given that we both do sort of feel like this is something that you see happen more or sooner with some queer ladies,
Yep.
What are the reasons? What is different? Why would it be something that is more common, more prevalent, more fast-moving with the lady-loving ladies?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just feel like, number one, this is a gross stereotype, but sort of true. So in straight relationships, there's this idea of like the man who doesn't want to commit and the woman who's like, come on, I love you. Like, let's make this official. Like, let's move forward. I want to move forward with all these steps. And I don't think everyone is like that. But at least for society, even if the guy doesn't actually feel that way, I think sometimes they feel pressured to hit the brakes, right? Whereas with women, I do feel like more often than not, you have two people who are like, I'm in love with you. I'm in love with you. And I have no problem being open about that. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to tell you how I feel. And you want to tell me how you feel. We're on the same page. Like, I'm not concerned that you're not into me. So that whole thing just like goes away. And you're like both like, oh, let's just merge.
There was a hand motion associated
Yeah,
with that.
sorry. I can't. Yeah, I just like put my hands.
There were intertwined fingers.
We're just gonna intertwine.
Merging, the urge to merge.
The urge to merge. But it is sort of true, you know, we can be more honest about those feelings of like, I want to move quickly with you. Like, I see a future here, and I'm not scared to say that.
In that way that we're going to stereotype everything in these episodes.
Yeah.
If the stereotype is women are more into commitment, then two women
are doubly into commitment.
Will commit. Will commit even faster.
Yeah.
Twice as fast? Maybe
Twice
not.
as fast.
But, you know, there's an exponential curve somewhere. It's not necessarily twice, but it's faster. It could be faster.
And I will say, like, I actually personally have a lot of friends who are not so much like that and like are polyamorous or prefer open relationships. But I would even say with them, even though they have multiple partners, they still are very committed with those partners. You know what I mean?
Fair. I want to, sorry, I'm such a nerd. But I want to come up with like an equation to be like, so how, depending on like with N being the number of people in your relationship, what's an equation for like how many months you've all been together and how many apartments you probably have between all
together. Yeah.
Together.
But I still do think like, even like to be polyamorous, you have to be so open with your feelings that it is like, even in those relationships, they still move quickly, I think.
Absolutely, I agree. I think this is not something that is true for like every gay woman.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly we all know lesbian fuckboys exist. Let's not discount them.
Yep.
You know, but I think in a general sense that what we're getting at is this idea of commitment, for one thing. The other thing is, I feel like it's still a lot more common. Like, I still distinctly remember when I was in grad school, one of the girls that I worked with in my labs said something one night where she was like, oh yeah, it's great, like, I'm gonna go home and, you know, my husband is going over to, like, a friend's house to watch the game, and I'm gonna sit at home and watch, like, I don't remember what, like, Dancing with the Stars or, like, something, right? And she was like, oh my god, I'm so excited, I'm gonna, like, have a friend over, have some wine.
Girls' night.
Girls' night, exactly. And I was like, oh, weird.
You're like, I always have girls' night with
what a
my
concept.
wife.
I think it's more common, like, not like lesbian couples never have separate interests. Of course we do. Mm-hmm. But I do think it's more common that, like, the majority of your activities you do together.
Yes.
And I feel like straight couples, again, anecdotally, in my experience, you know, more commonly will need to have like their very separate time and interests and groups. That's the other thing. Friend groups.
Oh, yeah. They just go together. They just go
Right?
together. Well, most of the women that we meet are in our friend group. Like, most people you date are like, because you're like, right now, my girlfriend is like a friend of a friend.
Yes.
Like, so we're sort of in the same friend group. But like when I was dating my ex-girlfriend, that was like exponential because we started dating in college. We were in the same a cappella group. We had all of the same friends. Like, then
The Venn diagram of our lives was a circle.
Like, completely every single thing we did was like together except for work. Like, but every other thing. And I mean, this is going into a completely different thing, but whatever. I think it's good to have a balance.
No, I agree. And I don't think that, you know, when you have a relationship with two women that you never have a balance. I just think it is more common that there is a lot more overlap.
A lot more overlap, yeah.
I think that tends to happen more with relationships where it's two women involved, because I think you see a lot more overlap. You know, we joke about that all the time, that my wife has a group of friends from college that they all try to get together like every year and do like a weekend somewhere. And we were joking for a long time that, like, you know, we'd been doing this and getting together as our lives were progressing. And we were like, you know, what's funny is, can we do one where like you guys bring your boyfriends / fiancés / husbands, because like we feel like we don't know the guys in your lives, and I'm there all the time.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
You know,
feel
it's like
you feel so much different, like inviting
like,
your girlfriend than inviting to the girls' weekend.
So when they would have like ostensibly girls' weekend, which it is, like I would always go.
Yeah.
And granted, I mean they're friends from my college, they're people that I've known for a long time, but still we just got to a point where we were like, hey, but also, you know, like Lee's at all of these gatherings. You've been with this dude for like 6 years and we haven't met him.
Yeah.
We'd like to meet him. And you talk about him, we hear about him, but you know, they don't bring the men. Kelsey brings me.
Yep.
And I think that type of thing happens a lot. We talk about it all the time when when we have friends getting married and they plan these like elaborate bachelorette weekends, and we're like, that's great. We're paying twice though. So,
Yep.
because you invite both of us,
Yep.
see what happens. And we're like, I get that you think it's only, X number per person, but it's double that because there's two of us and it's really expensive. So please stop doing that. But yeah, I mean, it is, you do sort of fall into that trap of like, you become this, like, you have the same friends group, you do the same things, you know, there's less separation.
Yes. And so then you're like, all right, well, we're together all the time anyways. Wouldn't it just make sense for us to just live in the same apartment?
Yeah,
and then we'll
exactly.
really be together all the time. No. And it's honestly like, it's great.
And
like,
then if I just keep sliding closer and closer while we're lying next to each other in bed, and I can slowly just
we'll fuse together. No, but it is like, it is a great feeling to wake up in the morning with someone that you love and to go to bed with them at night. So like, of course you're like, let's just freaking do it.
Yes, and we all go through the fusion phase. It's fine.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
We've all been there.
We all understand.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, going back to why lesbians do it more quickly is, I think I sort of said this, but this idea of like no games, which I think is like, when I was dating my ex, we would talk about that all the time. Like, let's just not play games with each other. Like, she was bisexual, and so it's like, I mostly was dating girls. But like, when you're dating a man, even in the first stages, it's like games. It's like you're trying to play who likes each other less.
You'd have to tell me more about this. The last time I dated a man, I was 15 years old. So.
Oh my God. No, but it is like you're like checking in with your friends to be like, is it okay for me to text them? Like, should I wait?
Sure.
Should I wait like 3 hours to make sure like they don't think I'm too available? And I think we still sort of play those games with lesbians because whatever, psychology and bullshit. But I think like then
because psychology and bullshit. I
mean,
love it.
It's true.
Best explanation ever.
I could go more in detail, but like when I was
I think that covers it all.
When I was single, like, to be real, the girls that you're not interested in always want you. And the girls that you show interest in are like, I don't know.
Like, playing it cool. The answer is, what you mean is playing it cool. We're all playing it cool.
Yeah, but I think we play it cool for way less time. Like, it's like, okay, the beginning of the relationship, we're still playing it cool. We're still testing the waters. Once you find out, like, once someone's like, I really like you, you're like, oh my God, thank God you said that because I really like you too. And like, fuck it.
Let's move it together.
Yeah, because I really like you too. I made a key and I hope that's okay.
Here's a key. Here's a t-shirt with our faces on it. I love you. Oh my God.
Yeah. But it's like, it's true. Like, you're like, oh, thank God. And you don't feel like you need to keep playing the games.
This episode's killing me.
I know.
I love it.
You come to the New Yorker Radio Hour for conversations that go deeper with people you really want to hear from, whether it's Bruce Springsteen or Questlove or Olivia Rodrigo, Liz Cheney, or the godfather of artificial intelligence, Geoffrey Hinton, or some of my extraordinarily well-informed colleagues at The New Yorker. So join us every week on the New Yorker Radio Hour, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, a co-founder of the Go Kid Go network. At Go Kid Go, putting kids first is at the heart of every show that we produce. That's why we're so excited to introduce a brand new show to our network called The Search for the Silver Lining, a fantasy adventure series about a spirited young girl named Isla who time travels to the mythical land of Camelot. During her journey, Isla meets new friends, including King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table, and learns valuable life lessons with every quest, sword fight, and dragon ride. Positive and uplifting stories remind us all about the importance of kindness, friendship, honesty, and positivity. Join me and an all-star cast of actors including Liam Neeson, Emily Blunt, Kristen Bell, Chris Hemsworth, among many others, in welcoming the Search for the Silver Lining podcast to the Go Kid Go network by listening today. Look for the Search for the Silver Lining on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Laura Cathcart-Robbins, and I am the host and creator of the podcast, Only One in the Room. Every week, my co-host Scott Slaughter and I invite you to join us and lose yourself in someone's only one story. The Only One in the Room has a wide variety of guests, from prisoners to abuse survivors to swingers. With 21 seasons and counting, we guarantee that Only One in the Room will have a story that you'll connect with. This podcast is for anyone who has ever felt alone in a room full of people, which is to say that this podcast is for everyone.
At Radiolab, we love nothing more than nerding out about science, neuroscience, chemistry.
But we do also like to get into other kinds of stories. Stories about policing or
Politics,
country music,
hockey,
sex, of bugs.
Regardless of whether we're looking at science or not science, we bring a rigorous curiosity to get you the answers.
And hopefully make you see the world anew.
Radiolab, adventures on the edge of what we think we know.
Wherever you get your podcasts.
Because it's also like, it's a stereotype, but it is sort of true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have another one that I want to toss out there. Which I know you saw my note on this.
Yes.
And laughed about my note to myself to remember to talk about this. But something else that I wonder if it has an effect is that when you move in, right? I think there's this way that moving in together and like commitment and exclusivity are like all sort of like tied into each other.
Yes.
Something else that I wonder if is a factor in this is that when you are a woman dating other women, you have a much smaller pool of available dating options.
Yep.
Right? So especially, I mean, I get, like, if you're living in a big city, maybe, like, you know, if you're out in San Francisco, or if you're, you know, somewhere where there's, like, there's just lesbians everywhere, like, maybe you kind of want to still be like, well, I want to know, I want to keep my options open, and I want to, like, see what's out there. But if you have a smaller dating pool, or, you know, if you feel like you've exhausted the dating pool where you live, that I feel like it might be more common for lesbians to say, like, hey, I'm dating this girl, we've been on some dates, been together a little bit, seems like it's going well, we're done.
Yeah, like, I'm done looking,
done.
I'm done, I'm tired of dating. I mean, I think that is valid for some people, especially in a smaller dating pool. And I will say, even in bigger dating pools, it's almost like a modeling effect, because I enjoyed my single life. I had a lot of options. That sounds horrible, but I did. And however, the longer you sort of like are in that sphere, people just single options dwindle.
Yeah.
Like
as people pair up.
like everyone around you pairs off. Like it's like people are I just feel like lesbians are either like, if they're single, like they just broke up with their ex.
Right.
Or they're in a relationship. Like, you know what I mean?
Possibly
it's like the time
they just broke up with their ex, are still living with that ex. All of their friends are in the same group of friends with that ex.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then you see, like, all your friends are coupled off, and you're like, I'm the only single person in this, like, whatever. And then you're like, oh, well, it'd be nice to have someone. You know, like, it's like still, even if there are a lot of fish in the sea, those fish are together. Those fish are all in pairs.
If there's fish in the sea and those fish are lesbians, those fish are paired up.
Those fish are paired off. They really freaking are. Like, oh my God.
Here's the thing about lesbian fish.
Since I started dating Jana, like, there already were like couples, and there were maybe like 4 or 5 of us who were single. Like, I think there's one left. And like, she's having a great time, but it's like
she's the 11th wheel every time you go out.
Yeah, but it's like everyone has just paired off.
Yeah.
And yeah, like now you're in a group of couples.
Right.
Which is fine. I love it. But it's just like, it's funny.
Yeah.
It's just funny.
Well, and I think it's hard to discount that, right? I mean, I think when you are straight, the available dating pool is like basically most of the population.
Yeah.
And when you're gay, it's not, you know, it's just not. And so I think even when you're somewhere with, you know, a booming queer population, it is. I mean, I think it's just hard to avoid that tendency to say like, hey, you know, if this isn't it, there might not be anything else out there for me. So lock it down.
Lock it down.
Lock it down now.
Lock it down immediately. Well, and I think too, like the older we get, like this U-Haul study did say that the older you get, the more likely you are to move in quickly. And I think it's the same mentality of like, because the older you get, the more people are coupled off. And the more you're like, okay, how many more single people are really even left here? You know, and those people probably just got divorced at that point. You know, it's like really, it's like, it's that cycle. It's true.
No, it is true. I'm really enjoying this.
Lesbian dating is great, people.
It's been, you know, the way that this schedule worked out this season, it's been a while since we've done an episode that's like just
the two of us.
Yeah. I just missed this, Ellie.
I know, I like it.
I'm having fun. So, okay, so let's talk about, we've talked a lot about anecdotal evidence and things like that. Let's share a little.
All right, well,
let's share a little of our experiences.
I know, and I've already shared a little bit, but like, I'm just saying, from my personal experience, at this point in my life, I have had 2 committed relationships with women. And my first one, screw-hauled hard. Like now that we're using that word.
I'm so glad screw-hauling is a thing.
Yeah. But like, we were in college and it was like, okay, so we would joke that like, I just moved in. Like, it was like, we got together and like, we were like, I lived in her dorm room and like, that was it, you know? And then, that was just, it's moved so quickly. We had also been friends for a long time. So I think we didn't even talk about that. I think that's super valid.
Yeah.
A lot of lesbians start dating their friends, like their good friends.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like you're not actually spending a lot of time getting to know the person.
Right. You have this established
You have an established bond. You know who they are. And obviously like the relationship changes.
Right.
But like you're more comfortable.
Sure. You're starting at a different
You start at a far different level.
You're not starting at you know.
You're not starting at 0.
Yeah.
But yeah, then we lived with 8 roommates over the summer. We did this summer a cappella group. Then the roommates
you
just kept dwindling. So it was like, then we lived with 2 roommates. And this was, mind you, for timeline, when we moved into our apartment in Brooklyn, we were together for 11 months.
100% U-hauling according to our study definition.
According to the study. And I feel like I was like, it's been almost a year. Like, this is fine. Even though, like, looking back, it's like, girl.
Yeah.
And then when we moved into our actual apartment that was just the 2 of us, we had been together for 2 years. So I feel like when I would reconcile it, I'd be like, well, we didn't live together alone.
Right.
Until 2 years.
Right.
So we didn't really U-Haul,
Yeah,
But
because when you have other roommates, you can kind of pretend that they're just like also a roommate that you happen to be dating.
Exactly.
Right.
But then it's like when you, and there is, to be real, a huge difference between living just the 2 of you. Like that was definitely
100%
a big adjustment to be like, oh, and now this is what it's like. Because then it is the kind of thing where like when we had roommates, it was like, oh, well, it's not just us all the time.
Right.
In a good way and a bad way, Like in a good way in that like, oh, well, we feel like we have friends, like we have a social life outside of each other.
Right.
Because they're living with us. And then you're alone and you're like, oh, it really is just us. And like, we need to like branch out and hang out with other people. They're not just like coming home to us, you know? So that, yeah.
They don't just appear in the living room.
Yeah, right? They don't just appear in the living room. And we had like, and especially when we lived with 8 other people, that didn't really feel like we were living together. That was like a freaking huge house and whatever. Yeah. And then my current relationship, I feel like I tried to slow things down, but then like at a certain point, you just give in to like, why am I trying to slow this down?
Screw hauling.
Yeah. But like, I just felt like it was like the thing I was supposed to do. Like people are always like, take your time. And I think it's good that we took our time to like figure out your feelings and like figure out if you want to commit. Because like the more time you take to figure it out, the more secure you are when you say
You're
yes.
You're not just like jumping in.
Yeah, Yeah. But like the thing is, like I was saying, once you get to that point where you're like, yes, we're in, then there's no stopping the acceleration. You know what I mean, though? Like, so right now it hasn't been.
So what you're saying is it's a slow climb on a roller coaster. You're like heading up the little like clunk, 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 clunk. You're like climbing your way up to the top of the mountain and you just fall. Yep. And then it's just like, whew, after that.
And then, there's really no turning back from there.
Got it.
No. It's still relatively soon, so whatever. We're done, but we're definitely in the screw all phase. I literally just came from our apartment this morning. Going back tonight. Was there on Thursday as well.
Nice.
So, yeah. And I don't really anticipate that slowing down, so... But it's fine. It's good.
See, and it's funny because it's like I have almost nothing to contribute to that in a general sense because Kelsey and I never really lived apart since college. Like, I think the time that we lived apart technically was like we had different dorm rooms and like basically we lived together.
Yep.
Like basically we lived in each other's dorm rooms.
Yep.
Oh, and then for one time she like did actually live in my dorm room. She kind of moved in. So my senior year, she was doing a year at Dartmouth. She did a dual degree program at Dartmouth. And my senior year, she was one of her Dartmouth years. And they're on the quarter system. So her year ended in March. So she just basically moved into my dorm room for the end of my senior year of college.
Yeah. Yep. And then she never left.
Yeah, I had a single. She moved in with me then. I think she lived with me that summer in Boston. And then as soon as she finished, she basically lived with me in the summers until she graduated from college. And we got engaged right before she finished college, actually. So,
Lee. Which was how many months? How many months?
Oh, good God. Okay, so we started dating her middle of the year, her sophomore year, and we got engaged before she graduated her senior year, so like 2.5 years.
2.5 years?
Yeah.
All right, well, that's Finally. That's pretty.
But that's getting engaged. I mean, that's
Yes.
that's like the next step past
living together. Yeah.
But I do have to say, actually, the first time that we moved in together by ourselves, because she came and lived with me in Boston when I was in grad school in the summers, and then she moved in with me when she finished her degrees, and we were renting a room in someone's house, so we didn't have our own place still. We moved in together for the first time 3 weeks before we got married.
Oh my God.
got our own apartment, because we kind of said, like, we don't want to be married and still, like, having roommates and everything.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so that must have been probably like 4 years after we got together. So we lived together for most of that time, but we, either were in dorm rooms or with roommates for a while. So
It makes sense. But to that point, I do think it is the kind of thing where age matters. If you were older and not in dorm rooms, you would have moved in earlier.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean,
so it's not like you didn't want to move in.
Yeah, the amount of time it took until we were like basically living in each other's dorm rooms was minimal.
Yes. Like 1 week.
Minimal amount of time.
Like same day. Yeah. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's all good. All right, Lee. Now that we've exhausted why people U-Haul and why we are the biggest U-Haulers of all, is it time for a Q and Gay?
I think it might be. I think it's time.
I think it is.
Q and Gay.
I'm going to ask the first question, which we already have sort of answered, but
Oh wait, are we switching off, or are you just asking me?
you want to switch off? Let's go like one. Yeah, go back to back.
Okay.
Right? I'll ask, then you ask. All right, Lee. Number 1. Have you ever U-Hauled?
I am gonna say, by the strict definition of living together before you have been dating 18 months, then yes, I would have to call myself a U-Hauler.
Yep.
18 months is a long time.
That is a long freaking time, right?
It's a
I'm like,
long time.
is it just a lesbian and me talking? But I'm like, that seems like a long time.
Seems like a lot.
No.
Okay. Question 2, Ellie. Which of the following would you choose?
Yes.
Out of U-Haul, Budget, Penske, or Enterprise?
I'm on a strict budget. I'm going to have to say I'm a budget girl.
There you go. Except Budget doesn't have a great screw haul.
Yeah,
pun
there's no like
name.
fun name with it.
No.
Fudget?
No.
Oh, that's horrible. That's really bad.
Yeah, we're going to pretend that one never happened for the sake of all of us. Moving on.
Moving on, Lee. Number 3. What's the earliest you've ever moved in? A, 1 month. B, 6 months. C, 1 year. D, 18 months.
Oh, this is such a hard one to answer, because what do you define as moving in?
I know.
Right? I mean, I think what we just said, that question of in each other's dorm rooms, like, moving in just over the summers while we're still kind of in college, where do we draw that line?
Where do we draw the line,
And
Lee?
I'm only slightly hedging so that I don't have to say like a week. I mean,
Yep.
it's just I'm going to say we probably land at the maybe like, let me say like a year. Let me say like a year,
year
because I think that's
just
the
makes
first
you
time
sound
where
better,
we
yeah.
officially like we are moving into like moving our stuff to a place officially in the same place.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Let's go with that.
That makes sense.
That sounds better, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's totally justifiable.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. Question 4. Why did you U-Haul / screw haul? Out of A, love.
Aw.
B, finances. C, nowhere else to live.
Valid.
D, getting out of your parents' house.
Also valid. I'm going to say A plus B. But if I had to pick one, it would probably be more A. Let's say more A. Hopeless
Aw.
romantic. Yeah.
Aw, you
Yeah.
just are too sweet.
I know. It's fine. And number 5, we're going to ask this one to Lee, so I don't have to get asked it. We all know the answer. Lee, are you still together with your U-Hauler? Yes or no?
I sure am.
Aw,
And you know why?
Lee.
Because I locked it down, Ellie.
Yeah, you
Lock
did.
it down.
Yeah, you did.
Got a
It's
ring on
okay.
that finger right quick.
You really did. It's okay. It's cute. And remember, you can give us your own answers to this episode's Q&A questions on our Twitter at Les Hangout Pod.
Let me hear you say hip, 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 well, yeah.
We love hearing from all of you. We love building this community, whether it's emails, whether it's our Facebook group, whether it's patrons. So we just want to shout out some of our favorite things that have been happening every episode.
Yes, and for this episode, we have someone who reached out to us on Instagram, and their Instagram handle is PRWWN. So
Prune.
I don't know how to say that.
I'm going to go with prune.
Prune. And they DM'd us videos of them watching Mona Lisa smile.
It is commitment to the suggestion.
Yes. And telling us like exact clips that should have been gay. And when I was watching them, I haven't seen Mona Lisa smile in a while. So I was like, oh, they're watching a lesbian movie. Like they were like some of the girls were kissing each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I feel like we always want to shout out things that weren't on our should have been gay list already.
Yeah.
And this one was not. So
it's not on the list, so it's for sure getting added. So
cheers to you, Perun.
Perun, thank you very much. And of course,
I keep saying that name.
I know, Perun. And of course, we want to shout out our top tier lesbian Jesus patrons, Amy and Ellen,
Kayla Kelly,
Lizette Stye,
Tanya Ferguson,
Jess Klaus,
and Danny Griswold. We absolutely depend on all the support from our patrons, depend on the support specifically from our excellent top tier lesbian Jesus patrons who we love. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.
And remember, you can find us on all the social medias. We are on Instagram, on Facebook, and on Twitter at Let's Hang Out Pod.
You can email us at letshangoutpod@gmail.com.
You can check out our website at letshangoutpod.com.
And make sure you subscribe so you'll be the first to know when we get new episodes.
We are also going to be putting up new videos every other Thursday on our YouTube channel this season, so make sure that you subscribe at youtube.com/letshangoutpod so that you don't miss any of those.
And if you want to support the podcast, one of the easiest ways you can do that is to rate and review us on iTunes. The more reviews we get, the more people see the podcast, the more amazing gay people we have in our lives. So please go rate and review us on iTunes, only if it's positive.
You can also become a patron on our Patreon page. You can find that at bit.ly/lespatreon. You get access to all sorts of cool stuff. Our secret Facebook group for our patrons. You get access to music, MP3 downloads. We have Les Essentials viewing parties. All sorts of good stuff. Be sure to check that out.
Yes, and we do have a viewing party coming up, so make sure you go on there if you want to come and watch Professor Marston with us.
Yes.
Amazing. We also have merch, and there are a lot of deals this month, a bunch of 30% off, so make sure you're looking out on our Instagram, our Twitter.
If you've been waiting, the time is coming up.
The time is now. Black Friday, Christmas. Christmas is the best time to get a good lesbian mug, lesbian shirt, lesbian sticker, everything. So you can find those at bit.ly/lesshop.
If you want to follow us individually, the best place to find me, I am on Twitter and on Instagram at LSH Foster.
And you can find me at Ellie Brigida on Instagram and Twitter. And with that, I'm Ellie.
And I'm Lee.
And let's hang out again soon.
Let's hang out.
Buffet brawlers, glory holes gone wrong, cannibalistic castration cabins, public poopers? These are just a few of the crazy topics you'll hear covered on Excuse Me? That's illegal. The pettiest podcast around. Whether you need a break from all that murdery true crime stuff, or just enjoy hearing hilarious stories told in a unique way, I got what you need. I'm Leroy Luna, your fearless host/chauffeur. So come hop in my minivan and let's go for a ride. I promise you probably won't be disappointed. Excuse Me? That's illegal is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, basically everywhere you consume podcasts, with new episodes dropping on the 10th, 20th, and 30th of the month, baby!